Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video I wanted to do an anti-haul, which if you haven't seen one yet, it's just a list of products that for one reason or another I'm not interested in getting. Now it is the holiday season, there are a lot of launches and a lot of sales, and everybody seems to be coming out with something new every other day. These are the things that just don't make the cut. Like, I don't want to test them, I don't want to touch them, play with them, try them. I'm gonna have to pass on them. A lot of them I have swatched in store and I've looked at, and just for one reason or another I'm not interested. So if that's something you're into, make sure to keep on watching, and do remember I upload twice a week, so you're gonna want to make sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of the fun things I'm posting. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first item in my anti-haul is the Too Faced Chocolate Gold Palette. Now, the chocolate bar palettes and the sweet peach palette, which I love my sweet peach palette, don't get me wrong. These palettes are really good staple palettes that Too Faced has been putting out for several years now. This palette, however, it seems to have a couple mattes in it and the rest is all shimmer. And they just came out with their glitter palette, which kind of flopped in a lot of ways. And I feel like this is just like them trying to come up with a better way to do that. And I still don't love it. Like, when you look at the palette, there's that one pretty green shade. And other than that, it's just a lot of neutrals. And for the price and the amount you're getting, it's just, all in all, I'm gonna stick to my Urban Decay Heavy Metals palette. And really, I have one all shimmer palette, I don't need 5. While we're on the all shimmer palettes, I'm going to very quickly say that I'm also going to pass on the Fenty Beauty Galaxy palette. Now, this palette is very pretty and the presentation is stunning, and Rihanna kicked it out of the park with this. But, again, I don't need another all shimmer palette, and when I swatched in store the Heavy Metals palette versus the Galaxy palette felt a little bit more powdery and a little more chalky, and I just felt that the Heavy Metal palette just kind of did a little bit more. So I obviously went with the Urban Decay. I'll link my video down below of the review I did on that, and I can't bring myself to have both because I really don't need it, and it doesn't need to sit in a drawer for me to always use the other one. Next is, well, it's not one, it's 3 products, and they are the Mothership palettes from McGrath Labs. Now, these palettes individually retail for $125, or you can get all 3 for the low price of $300. Now, that is absolutely ridiculous, and I like my expensive bougie products, don't get me wrong. But for 10 shades, $125 just didn't do it for me, especially because there's so few mattes in there that one of the shades is almost a pressed glitter. 2 of them are like these prismatic color shifting pieces, so you really only have like a handful of looks you can do with the palette. Like, I spent a lot on my Lila palette from Natasha Denona, but there's so many different mattes and shimmers and different things you could do with that palette. Like, I am constantly inspired to do new and different things in there. I feel like I look at the McGrath palettes, and each one, there's one color I want to play with, and the rest of them are just kind of there. Next, from Anastasia Beverly Hills, is the Prizm palette. Now, I love my Modern Renaissance, and I feel like I'm always going to try and like defend myself. I love my Sweet Peach palette, I love this, I love that, but I do love my Modern Renaissance. It is a beautiful palette. Ignoring the debacle that happened with the Subculture palette, because it has nothing to do with why I don't want Prizm, the colors just don't do anything for me. Like, I like these neutrals and I like warm shades, and other than this like chartreusey green, which I will never touch in the Prizm palette, it's nothing new and exciting. Like, it's a bunch of products that I feel like we've seen before. We've seen this color story from other people. It looks a lot like a Marc Jacobs, one of those 7 shade palettes that came out a little while ago. Like, if you're gonna splurge and get a palette where it's this color story, I'm gonna go for something a little bit more reliable. But, I mean, if you love Anastasia and it's something you are die-hard in love with, go for it, get it. Like, there's nothing wrong with the product, but it's just not something I'm gonna spend my money on. Next, from Smashbox, is the Drawn In and Decked Out palette. Now, this is an eye and cheek palette. It has contour, bronzer, blush, and a whole bunch of eyeshadows. The reason I don't need it is just because I have so many of all of those already. I don't need one palette with everything. Like, in my BoxyCharm limited edition box, I got an eye and cheek palette. It's 1 blush and 6 eyeshadows. And I'm already like freaking out because do I put it with my blushes? Do I put it with my eyeshadows? I know that's not a really good reason to not want something, but when I categorize stuff so specifically, like the Tardiest Pro Glow palette has bronzers and highlighters in it. Like, where the hell am I gonna put it? I know that that's really, really minuscule, and my OCD aside, like, it just didn't call to me. And I feel like if you're somebody who's new to makeup and you're just playing around with it and you really want to get to know products and you want to play around with more things, I think it's great. But somebody with like so much stuff, there's really nothing new and exciting in there that makes me want to get it. Next from Hourglass is the Confessions Lipstick Archive. Now, I did play around with the Hourglass lipsticks, and for the price and the amount of product you get, I'm going to pass on them as a whole. Now, this vault is $650. Like, $650 for a bunch of lipsticks? Like, don't get me wrong, I have spent a lot of money on makeup. I have some expensive products. I feel like a lipstick vault where so many of the shades are so similar is just a waste of money. Like, I cannot wrap my head around why somebody would want the entire range of lipsticks when they are overpriced, overhyped, and they're really not that good to begin with. Like, if it was a vault of, like, the Jeffree Star lipsticks, I would say absolutely, because there are a million different colors in every shade range, and the formula is so good, and they last so long. But these lipsticks just don't qualify the purchase for a couple, let alone the whole range. And the final item that I'm going to definitely be passing on this holiday season is the Kylie Cosmetics Naughty and Nice palettes. Now, the palettes are pretty, don't get me wrong, but for the price point and the shades, I feel like we've seen it before. Like, if they were to do this duality thing like Kat Von D did in her Saint and Sinner palette, and they did both, and it was a Naughty and Nice palette, I think that would be a great way to make it a little bit more accessible and a little bit more splurge-worthy. But, I mean, neither of the palettes are so new and interesting. I mean, the Naughty palette has that same green that every palette seems to be having now. And I get it, green is in, and it's a very hot color, and I actually just filmed a tutorial with green going up next week today, but like, other than that, there's nothing else new. And if you've picked up any other palette this holiday season, you already have that green. So, pass. And that's my anti-haul. I just want to say, and I know disclaimers are horrible, and I hate when people do them, but I'm gonna do it. I do really like all of these brands, and I have tried, actually, I really haven't played around with Kylie too much, but all of the other brands I have tried. I have items here that I love, things that I continue to reach for time and time again. This is not a reflection of the brand as a whole, but these are just the items that I wasn't really feeling, and who knows, tomorrow each of these brands could come out with something that I'm going to run out to go buy. But right now, this is what I'm going to pass on. So, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.